This is the story of a man who saw the millions hacking at the branches of evil, and instead of joining them, he decided to strike the root. Today's story is called Start at the Roots.
Welcome to the very first holiday season of The Story. Season 5 features 8 stories of trailblazers paired with the beginnings of some of the most famous winter holidays ever. Season 5 of The Story is brought to you exclusively by Salesforce, the world's #1 customer relationship management platform. More than 150,000 businesses are using Salesforce to blaze their own trails to success. The Story is created by our team at Mission.org, a media company and podcast network.
The gravel stung as his face scraped against it. The weight of the men on top of him was suffocating. He struggled to wrestle himself free, but he wasn't strong enough to escape. All he could do was repeat the phrase, "I didn't do anything." The sharp pain of a baton hit him in his ribs, and he lay motionless. He felt cold metal bracelets clasp and tighten around his hands. "Let us go! We did nothing wrong," said the young man's brother laying next to him. Another blow landed, and the man's brother lay silent. By this point, a crowd had formed around the young men in handcuffs. The boy's mother, a woman named Renee Fry, showed up and begged the police to let her sons go. The crowd grew loud, and some people began yelling at the police. More officers showed up, batons in hand, ready. The small crowd grew bigger. Members of the community came to protest and offer to help the young men being beaten. The scene became too dangerous for the officers to stay, and they took the boys on the ground away. Soon, a riot raged in south-central Los Angeles. After years of tension between the citizens and the police, the situation had reached a tipping point. It wasn't long before things got out of control. The real reason behind the riot was lost, and then dangerous people began to join. These new rioters looted stores and torched buildings. There were fights, fires, and gunshots all throughout the neighborhoods. In another part of Los Angeles, a man stared at his television. It pained him to watch so much violence. He couldn't bear to see people resort to such extremes. The man was an African-American studies teacher, and as he often taught his students, violence was never going to be the answer to any hardships or challenges facing them. It was the 1960s, and racial tensions ran high in America. The teacher recognized this and taught that it did not give them permission to cause harm to others or destroy property. Just because things were bad didn't mean that violence had to be part of the solution. After 5 days of chaos, order was restored. The damage was staggering, with 34 dead, 1,032 injured, over 4,000 arrests, and $40 million worth of property destroyed. The Watts riot was the worst urban riot in 20 years. Watching it unfold left the teacher disturbed. There must be another way, he thought. Riots like this must never happen again. The next day, he started an organization called US. He looked to Africa in search of practices and concepts that he could use to empower and unite the African American community. After months of studying, he zeroed in on the Zulu culture. He studied how they celebrated the gathering of food during their harvest. Then he studied the smallest tribes in Africa, the Matabele, Tonga, and Lobedu for inspiration and guidance. He even studied far and wide outside Africa, looking to Swaziland for influences he could repurpose. There was something empowering, even mystical, about what he was finding. All of these tribes and cultures stressed the importance of family, community, and cultural history. The celebrations that resulted from these mindsets led to a sense of deep meaning and purpose in the people who practiced them. Soon he began crafting all his learnings into a new secular holiday. The he in this story is Dr. Maulana Karenga. He succeeded in creating a holiday that fused several holidays and celebrations into one. This new holiday was about connecting those who practiced it to their roots. It was about helping them discover deeper parts of themselves while spending time with loved ones. The holiday Dr. Karenga created is called Kwanzaa, and it's celebrated by millions today. Kwanzaa draws on the cultures of various African peoples, and it stresses the importance of culture, community, history, and family. The name Kwanzaa is derived from the phrase Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which means first fruits in Swahili. Everyone who observes Kwanzaa celebrates in their own way, but most of the celebrations include song and dance, storytelling, poetry readings, and, of course, a large shared traditional meal. During the 7-day festival of Kwanzaa, families gather each night to discuss the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles Kwanzaa is based on. These 7 principles include unity, self-determination, collective work, responsibility, purpose, creativity, and faith. The holidays are a time for reflection on the previous year. When we look back, like Dr. Karenga, we're liable to see challenging situations. When we see what's going wrong in our lives or the world, it's tempting to try and fix the surface-level problems or symptoms. But, in the immortal words of Henry David Thoreau, there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil to one who is striking at the root. Forming new traditions and new habits is the only way to strike the root of our problems. If we don't like the traditions of our family or culture, we're free to create new ones. When we give ourselves time for reflection around the holidays, we have a chance to dream up new traditions and celebrations. By revitalizing our culture, our future will become brighter. By looking to our histories for inspirations, we can chart a better course of where we want to go. Dr. Karenga saw strife and violence strike his community, so he looked to his roots for answers. He found that we all need to remember who we are and where we came from in order to know where we're going. That's his story. What's yours going to be?
Thanks for listening to The Story. If you love this and want more, tap subscribe to make sure you don't ever miss an episode. Thanks again to Salesforce for sponsoring this season of The Story. The Story is created by The Mission, your #1 source for accelerated learning. We send out a daily newsletter, operate a network of podcasts and shows, and our brand studio creates sponsorships that drive results for world-class companies like Salesforce. Subscribe and learn more at mission.org.